This podcast includes real stories about real accidents, deaths, and ghost stories. Some content may be scary or upsetting for young listeners. Listener discretion is advised. This podcast is intended for entertainment purposes only. We do not intend to defame or misrepresent any business or individuals involved. All accounts are based on publicly available sources. Hidden deep in the hills of West Virginia lies a forgotten amusement park. Rusting, rotting, and restless, what once echoed with children's laughter now trembles with whispers from beyond. Lake Shawnee isn't just abandoned, it's haunted. And my name is Marissa, your morbidly curious host, and this is Death Kiss Traveler, the podcast that brings you history, horror, hauntings, and amusement together. Long before European settlers arrived, the area around modern-day Mercer County, West Virginia, where Lake Shawnee sits, was part of a vast network of Native American hunting grounds and migratory paths. This region was rich in natural resources. Forests, game, fresh water, and fertile soil had been inhabited by indigenous people for thousands of years. The Shawnee occupied a wide area across the Ohio Valley, including parts of present-day Ohio, Kentucky, West Virginia, and Pennsylvania. The name Shawnee roughly means Southerner, and they were known for their warrior culture, deep spiritual traditions, and resistance against colonial expansion. In the 1600s and early 1700s, Shawnee people were pushed and scattered due to pressures from other tribes, European settlers, and conflict. However, many eventually returned to reclaim the land in the Ohio Valley and the surrounding regions. In 1775, Mitchell Clay, a Revolutionary War veteran of English descent, moved with his wife Phoebe Belcher Clay and their growing family into the Bluestone River area near present-day Mercer County, West Virginia. At the time, this region was considered remote, dangerous, and unsettled by European standards. But unknown to the Clays, it had long been sacred hunting and burial grounds for the Shawnee and other indigenous tribes. Mitchell built a cabin, cleared the land, and raised crops, classic signs of colonization. To settlers, this was a noble taming of wilderness. To Native people, it was encroachment, theft, and desecration of sacred ground. To many Native American cultures, disturbing burial grounds is a deeply sacrilegious act. The belief that the land remembers trauma, especially when it's desecrated, aligns with the ghost stories and the paranormal reports that surround Lake Shawnee today. The Clays had 16 children, 7 sons, and 9 daughters. Their sons were named Mitchell Jr., Henry, Charles, William, David, Bartley, and Ezekiel. The daughters were Rebecca, Patience, Sally, Obedience, Nanny, Mary, Tabitha, Polly, and Sarah. The couple had received a crown grant for roughly 800 acres along what is now known as Lake Shawnee. Back then, it was referred to as Clover Bottom. In 1783, after Clay had harvested his crop of small grain, he left to hunt game with his older boys. Reports say it was Charles and Mitchell Jr. At that time, the oldest son David was away, and since no signs of nearby danger had been spotted, they entrusted their younger brothers, Bartley and Ezekiel, with the task of building fences around the wheat stacks to keep out the livestock. Feeling secure in their routine, Phoebe Clay carried on with the day's work. She sent her daughter Tabitha and a few of the older children down to the river to wash clothes. Inside the cabin, Rebecca helped with household chores, while young Obedience tended to the smaller children in the yard. But the Clays didn't know that they were being watched. From a high ridge across the river, a Shawnee scout had been observing their every move for days. 2 separate war parties were in the area, one tracking horses through Abbs Valley and the other following the river, all while the Clay family unknowingly lived under the watchful eye of raiding Native Americans. They crept to the edge of the field and shot Bartley dead. He was approximately 16 years old. The discharge of the gun alarmed the rest of the family. Phoebe and the surviving children fled the attack. Tabitha was approximately 15 years old, was killed and scalped, while another son, Ezekiel, was captured. After returning to the house, Mitchell came across his 2 dead children. Immediately, he organized a retaliatory raid with other settlers. Together, they tracked the Shawnee. He followed them across Flat Top in Raleigh County before overtaking them in Boone County. The posse ambushed them and killed several of the Shawnee people, though the exact number remains unclear. Unfortunately, Ezekiel was burned at the stake just before his father reached the village. Reports put him roughly 6 to 8 years old. Mitchell brought his young son's remains home and buried all 3 of his children on the land. That land would carry the weight of their loss and many more to come. Despite this dark past, by the 1920s, the land was in settlers' hands, eventually sold to Conley T. Snidow. In 1926, entrepreneur C.T. Snidow acquired land around Lake Shawnee near Princeton and began developing a small amusement park, which soon became popular for families of coal miners that resided in the area. It featured a Ferris wheel, swing ride, racetrack, dance hall, and concession stands, along with a lake for swimming and canoeing in the summer and ice skating in the winter. Cabins for overnight stays were built, and a concrete-lined swimming pool with a slide was added in 1927. In 1937, Conley Snidow erected a memorial to honor the lives of the 3 deceased Clay children. By the 1950s, Lake Shawnee Amusement Park had become more than just a summer attraction. It was a full-blown destination. Families came from across the state to swim in one of West Virginia's largest concrete pools, take aim at the gun shooting gallery, or unwind in one of the 16 rustic cabins nestled beneath the trees. There were now hiking trails that would wind through the woods, a golf driving range, concession stands, and the hum of laughter echoing across the grounds. It was the kind of place that felt frozen in golden light. Until it didn't. Because there's a reason Lake Shawnee feels different now. It's not just the rusting Ferris wheel. It's metal arms groaning in the wind like a forgotten song. It's not just the weeds swallowing the playground, or the swing set that creaks when no one is near. It's something heavier, something that settles in your chest the moment you step onto the grounds. This isn't just an abandoned amusement park. It's layer upon layer of joy, tragedy, blood, and loss. From the ancient indigenous burial grounds beneath your feet, to the children who died playing here, to the stories whispered on ghost tours every October. They say the land is cursed, and maybe it is, because at Lake Shawnee, 6 children never made it home. One bright summer afternoon in the 1950s, laughter echoed through Lake Shawnee Amusement Park as children played beneath the blazing sun. Among them was a young girl, no older than 12, dressed in a delicate pink dress that fluttered with every swing's arc. She was carefree, lost in the simple joy of the playground. But that joyful moment was shattered in an instant. A soda delivery truck, its driver distracted and unaware, began to back toward the swing set. The vehicle's heavy tires met the moving swing at full force, and the girl was struck before anyone could react. Her life ended instantly, leaving behind stunned families, frozen in horror. In 1961, Wayne Harmon had barely begun to swim when the 6-year-old vanished beneath the water of the park's crowded pool. Another child found his tiny body moments later. His death shattered his family, and his mother later sued the park for negligence. It was the 4th of July weekend, 1966. 11-year-old John Talley and his family were celebrating summer the way hundreds of others did, at Lake Shawnee. But as John swam, his arm got caught in a submerged drain pipe. He struggled. No lifeguard came. By the time they found him, it was too late. Long before the other tragedies, in 1930, 12-year-old Kelly Souter was enjoying the slide on the pool. He fell from it, crashing into the concrete lip of the swimming pool. He later died in the hospital from a skull fracture. Another incident happened in the 1930s, but the details are not as clear. It involved a child trapped by suction in the pool's drain. They were later found drowned at the bottom of the pool. There were other lives lost and unaccounted for. Some stories don't have names like this one. Locals tell of a boy who drowned at the lake while fishing from a canoe. The details are murky. Records are missing. By July of 1967, the Mercer County Health Department had had enough. Following cumulative tragedies and multiple drownings, they ordered the pool and other ride closures due to safety violations. Mercer County Health Department announced that all swimming and recreational activities at the Lake Shawnee must cease until it could comply with certain state health regulations that were ordered by the West Virginia Department of Health. The order called for the cleanup of the swimming pool, the installation of filters, and the general cleaning of debris from the area. Snyder was forced to close, but before he did, he allowed 2 men, Clifford Lewis and Edward V. McMichael, to conduct small exploration projects. The 2 men discovered beads, pottery fragments, and pieces of jewelry. Their small discovery sparked the curiosity of archaeologists. In the autumn of 1975, Emery Jones, a passionate amateur archaeologist with a keen interest in Native American history, began investigating a small, overlooked section of the Lake Shawnee property. Unlike the professional digs that would come later, Jones worked quietly, carefully, driven by curiosity and respect for the land's past. Over several chilly weeks, from October through December, Jones and a small team carefully excavated the earth, layer by layer, and what they found was both fascinating and deeply unsettling. Among the roots and soil, they uncovered the skeletal remains of 13 children, small fragile bones arranged with care, suggesting a burial site of great importance. Alongside the remains were shards of pottery, stone tools, and beads, silent witnesses to the lives these young souls once lived centuries before. Jones understood immediately this was not just a family graveyard or a random burial site. It was part of a much larger Native American sacred burial ground, a place where generations had laid their loved ones to rest. His discovery sent ripples through the local community, raising questions about the true history of the land beneath the amusement park's rusting rides. Jones' findings were a solemn reminder that beneath the laughter and the thrill-seeking of modern visitors lay stories of ancient people, a legacy forgotten or ignored. The land held memories, whispers of lives cut short, and a sacredness that no playground or Ferris wheel could erase. Though this excavation was limited in scope, It laid the groundwork for a larger official dig that would follow in the late 1980s. In 1985, former worker Gaylord White had grown up helping at Lake Shawnee. He returned to purchase the abandoned park, nearly 2 decades after it closed in 1966. His vision was personal, to restore the place of his childhood memories, even buying back some of the original rides to bring it back to life. By 1987, Lake Shawnee Amusement Park was reborn. It featured a fully restored Ferris wheel, the revived swing, kiddie rides, paddle and bumper boats, and even a stage for live performances. The park showed promise. The reopening was a huge success, estimated at tens of thousands of visitors over 3 seasons, with over 10,000 attending just the 1987 4th of July weekend, all for only a $1 admission. It reopened again in the summer of 1987, but after increasing insurance rates, the park was forced to close by 1988. Gaylord White saw other uses for the location, such as a fishing tournament or off-road motorsports. Still determined to use the land, White shifted his focus to mud bogging events. But as he prepared the site, he unearthed more than just soil. They came with bulldozers and blueprints, ready to breathe life back into the abandoned grounds of Lake Shawnee. Plans were simple: install new plumbing, upgrade a few rides, maybe reopen for a new generation of thrill seekers. But almost immediately, something pushed back. Machines that had run flawlessly on other jobs suddenly sputtered or stalled. Brand new equipment refused to start. Shovels struck the earth and came back bent, as if the land itself was resisting. Workers complained of uneasy feelings, of cold chills in the summer heat, of an overwhelming sense that they were being watched. Some said they heard voices when no one was around. Others said they couldn't sleep after working a shift, haunted by the vivid dreams of screaming children and shadowy figures. One by one, the crew started to quit. Tough, experienced men, contractors who'd worked highways, coal mines, battlefields, walked off the job without explanation, refusing to return. And the work stopped. The current property owner, Gaylord White, has spoken about it many times, shaking his head as if he's still trying to understand. Quote, "The land doesn't want to be developed, and I've learned to listen." End quote. His plans caught the attention of archaeologists from Marshall University and Concord College, who launched an emergency excavation in 1988. What they found was chilling. The remains of children, along with over 25,000 artifacts, pottery, beads, tools, and sacred items that hadn't seen daylight in centuries. White allowed a second dig the following summer in 1989. Across both excavations, field teams uncovered 23 to 25 children's skeletons, many of them curled in the fetal position, likely part of a much larger ancient burial ground. Based on their findings, archaeologists believe nearly 3,000 indigenous bodies still lie beneath the park's surface, remains that have not seen the light of day in more than 800 years. What began as a personal project to revive childhood nostalgia quickly turned into something much deeper, a confrontation with the land's buried past. These were not random graves. They were part of a structured, ceremonial resting place. The discovery confirmed that the land was sacred long before the settlers arrived, long before Mitchell Clay buried his murdered children there, and long before the swings and Ferris wheels ever spun. The excavation spooked the White family. Instead of seeking redevelopment or reopening, they chose respect. an immersion in the land's deeper history. White halted his construction. The rides were never fully restored. The park never reopened as he envisioned. He later said, quote, "I didn't know we were building on sacred ground, but I know better now," end quote. Many believe that disturbing those graves twice only deepened the curse that lingers over Lake Shawnee. In the aftermath, the Whites leaned into the park's eerie ambience and decided to share its stories, beginning with campfire storytelling tours that eventually established annual October Dark Carnival, paranormal events building a legacy rooted in haunting and history. The abandoned amusement park has attracted ghost hunters and paranormal experts for years. The park was featured on many television shows, like The Scariest Places on Earth in 2002, Most Terrifying Places in America, which aired on the Travel Channel in 2010, and was also featured on the paranormal TV series The Unexplained, which aired on the History Channel in 2019. Today, property tours, supernatural expeditions, and small Halloween walkthrough attractions draw visitors and curious spirit seekers from far beyond Mercer County. Visitors have heard footsteps, mysterious laughter, and songs from children. Sometimes one of the swings will move on its own. At one point, someone got locked in a shabby ticket booth, even though the doors don't lock. So is Lake Shawnee really haunted? The stories and accounts of hauntings are numerous. Near the old pool, visitors report orbs, ripples over stagnant water, and the faint sound of child's crying or laughter. Small pinwheels and toys often appear left behind at the water's edge. Gifts for a drowned child believed to wander the site. In 2016, a seasoned investigator from Detroit Paranormal Expeditions joined a team for an overnight stay at the park. That night, under a moonless sky, the team pitched their tents near the remnants of rusting rides and forgotten graves. As the clock neared 3 a.m., an eerie stillness settled over the grounds. So quiet, it felt like the world was holding its breath. Then from the edge of the property, they saw him. A tall, thin figure appeared on a lonely county road, just beyond the tree line. He walked slowly, deliberately, wearing a faint, light-colored shirt that seemed to shiver faintly in the dark. He didn't speak. He didn't turn. He just paced. A car passed, its headlights on the road, but the man cast no shadow. And yet, there he was. Until he wasn't. The investigators ran towards where he had been, but there were no footprints. No path, no rustle of the movement in the brush. Just an empty stretch of road and suffocating silence. One investigator later wrote, quote, "It felt like we had looked into something we weren't supposed to see," end quote. One guest reported scratches across his lower back after sitting on the swings at night, marks that vanished the next day. Another recounted seeing a shadowed figure with a light, disappearing into mud with no footprints. Paranormal teams report seatbelts buckling and unbuckling on their own, and remote visitors have captured EVPs and ghostly light movements around the wheel. Today, the owner says, "You might not like what you see there." During Halloween, Lake Shawnee hosts a dark carnival, guided tours where visitors often experience cold spots, shadowy figures, and actor-led encounters near the ride. According to the park official's website, you can book an overnight camping trip for $105 a person, or daytime tours for $38. The site also states, "We ask when you visit to bring an offering to pay respect to those who have passed on the property." For over 14 years, Gaylord White has been the caretaker and owner of the long-abandoned amusement park. Most days, He rides his tractor across the overgrown fields, cutting back nature's slow reclaiming of the rustic Ferris wheel, broken swings, and faded memories. But something else walks those grounds with him. It started with a feeling, subtle at first, a faint tingle on his shoulder, a brush on his arm, as if someone were gently trying to get his attention. No wind, no insects, just a sudden, invisible presence. He wouldn't see her until one sweltering summer day. Quote, "I could sense someone standing behind me and touching my right shoulder or holding onto my arm. One hot summer day, I saw her standing there, smiling at me right before my eyes. A young girl in a pink dress." End quote. She didn't speak. She didn't move. She just stood in the tall grass, sunlight dancing on her pale dress, looking directly at him with soft, knowing eyes. Then she vanished. Gaylord didn't run. He didn't scream. He'd felt her there for years. This was only a confirmation of what he already knew. She had never left. Locals still remember her on how she wore a pink dress that day. Gaylord, out of respect, or perhaps out of quiet reverence, began parking his tractor near the swings. He leaves it for her. He says in case she wants to play. "She doesn't frighten me," he once told a visiting paranormal team. "She always is gentle, always watching." Many paranormal groups have visited Lake Shawnee, some capturing cold spots, EVPs, or strange images on infrared. But none of them feel what Gaylord does. A bond, a silent companionship between the living and the long dead. He doesn't just own the park, he shares it. And after I had wrote and recorded this podcast, Lake Shawnee was in the news once again for a fire. On June 24th at 9:30 p.m., it engulfed a pavilion structured at the park. According to the owner, White, he believes it was a trespasser that set the fire. It caused over $50,000 in damages. A UTV was found under the pavilion, burning, and White told reporters that the ATV was not Shawnee Lake property. The pavilion was built in 1995 and was a hub for campers to share ghost stories and sit around campfires. While looking at the damages, White says his wife spotted an untouched bell. White and his family believe it was left by the little girl that died on the swing. It is said that she loves to play with bells. The laughter is gone, the rides have stopped, and silence now blankets Lake Shawnee Amusement Park. But silence doesn't mean peace. Beneath rusted steel and rotting wood lies a land soaked in sorrow. Children's cries lost in the wind, swings that move without touch, and echoes of a past that refused to stay buried. From ancient tragedies to modern hauntings, this forgotten fairground remains alive in a way that defies logic and tempts fate. Maybe it's the spirits of those who never left. Maybe it's something older. But one thing is certain, when you visit Lake Shawnee, you're not alone. This has been Death Kissed Traveler, where the past isn't always dead. If you like this podcast, please leave a review, subscribe, or share this podcast with your friends. I really appreciate the support. Want to visit West Virginia? Sun-Kissed Traveler can help you plan an amazing vacation. Check out the link in the show notes or go to sun-kissedtraveler.com.